They handed me a tray and told me to serve champagne at my ex-husband's engagement party. The same man who called me Barren, the same man who threw me away like trash. But what he didn't know, I was carrying the secret that would destroy everything he'd built. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this story will have you on the edge of your seat. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Now let me tell you how my ex-husband's cruelty became his biggest mistake. I should have known something was wrong when the catering company called me for a last-minute job at the Sterling Grand Hotel. They never call me for the luxury events. I'm usually stuck doing birthday parties and small corporate lunches, but they said someone canceled, they were desperate, and the pay was double my usual rate. I needed the money. 6 months after my divorce, I was barely keeping my head above water, working 3 different catering gigs just to pay rent on my tiny studio apartment. So I said yes. I didn't look at the client name. That was my first mistake. When I walked into that ballroom, my stomach dropped. I knew that color scheme, ivory and gold. Wesley always loved ivory and gold. He said it looked expensive, classy. I stopped dead in my tracks when I saw the banner. Wesley and Lauren, a love story begins. My ex-husband, my Wesley. Except he wasn't mine anymore, was he? He made that very clear when he signed those divorce papers and looked me dead in the eye and said, "What good is a wife who can't give me children?" I should have turned around and walked out, but my rent was due in 4 days, and I had $37 in my checking account, so I tied that apron around my waist, picked up my tray, and decided I could survive anything for 3 hours. I'd survived 2 years of marriage to Wesley Thompson. I'd survived his cold silences, his disappointed looks every time my period came. I'd survived the fertility specialists and the tests and the appointments where doctors poked and prodded me like I was broken machinery. I could survive serving champagne at his engagement party. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. There were ice sculptures shaped like swans, tables covered in white roses that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Everything sparkled. Everything was perfect. It reminded me of our wedding, except bigger, more extravagant. Wesley always had to go bigger. That's what happens when you're the heir to a pharmaceutical fortune. Money isn't real. It's just numbers that make problems disappear. I was arranging glasses on my tray when I heard his laugh, that deep, confident laugh that used to make my heart skip. Now it just made my chest tight. I looked up, and there he was, Wesley Thompson, in a custom navy suit that probably cost $5,000, his arm around a woman who looked like she stepped out of a magazine. Lauren. She was beautiful, thin, blonde, glowing. Everything I wasn't. Everything I could never be. They were talking to a group of guests, and Wesley was animated, happy in a way I'd never seen him. That's when I heard it. "We're expecting," Lauren said, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. "Due in February." The guests erupted in congratulations, and Wesley beamed like he'd won the lottery. My hands went numb. The tray almost slipped from my grip. 6 months. We'd been divorced for 6 months, and he already had everything he said I could never give him. A baby, a family, a future. That's when Wesley saw me. I watched his eyes move from my face down to the catering uniform, and something shifted in his expression. Not surprise, not embarrassment, satisfaction. He whispered something to Lauren, kissed her cheek, and walked straight toward me. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. "Well, well," he said, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "Look at this. Champagne?" He took a glass from my tray, his fingers deliberately brushing mine. "I have to say, this is fitting. You finally found your proper place." I couldn't speak. My throat felt like it was closing. "Nothing to say? That's new." "You always had so much to say during our marriage. All those complaints, all that emotion." He took a sip of champagne, his eyes never leaving mine. "I want you to serve our table tonight. Personally, can you do that, or is that too much to ask?" I nodded because what else could I do? I needed this job. I needed the money. So I swallowed every ounce of pride I had left and whispered, "Yes, sir." The next hour was torture. I stood by their table, refilling glasses, bringing appetizers, clearing plates. Wesley made sure I heard everything, every story about how he and Lauren met at a charity gala, every detail about their whirlwind romance, every plan for their future, the nursery they were designing, the baby names they were considering, and his friends, people who used to be my friends. They looked at me with pity or pretended not to recognize me at all. Then Wesley stood up to make a toast. The room went quiet, and everyone turned to face him. "I want to thank you all for being here tonight," he began, raising his glass. "This is a special moment for me. For us." He pulled Lauren close. "You know, I spent years in a relationship that wasn't right. Years trying to build something on a foundation that was cracked from the beginning. Some people just aren't capable of being what you need them to be. Some promises can't be kept, no matter how much you want them to be." People shifted uncomfortably. They knew he was talking about me. I was standing right there holding a tray, and he was talking about me like I was invisible. But then I met Lauren, and I realized what I'd been missing. A real woman. A complete woman. Someone who could give me everything I ever wanted. The crowd cheered, glasses clinked, and something inside me just broke. My hands started shaking. The tray wobbled. I tried to steady it, but a champagne glass tipped over and shattered on the marble floor. The sound cut through the celebration like a gunshot. Everyone turned to look at me. Wesley's expression changed from triumph to disgust. "Really?" he said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "You can't even do this job right? I guess some things never change." People laughed. Not everyone, but enough. I bent down to pick up the broken glass, my eyes burning with tears I refused to let fall. That's when Wesley's mother appeared. Helen Thompson, in her designer gown and pearls, looking down at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. "Let the staff handle that, dear," she said to me, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You've done enough damage, don't you think?" I excused myself and practically ran to the bathroom. I locked myself in a stall and let the tears come. 2 years. 2 years of trying to be enough for that family. 2 years of appointments and medications and injections and disappointments. 2 years of being told, subtly and not so subtly, that I was the problem, that I was broken, that I was less than. I pressed my hand against my lower abdomen where I'd been feeling cramping all week. The cramping that made me go to the doctor 3 days ago. The appointment I'd almost canceled because I couldn't afford the copay. I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope I'd been carrying around, too scared to fully process what it meant. The paper crinkled as I unfolded it. Pregnancy test, positive. Estimated gestational age, 8 weeks. 8 weeks. 2 months. I'd been so stressed after the divorce, so broken, that I didn't even notice my period had stopped. And when I started seeing Trevor, the contractor who was fixing the plumbing in my building, it didn't occur to me that maybe, just maybe, the problem was never me at all. I stared at that paper, and something shifted. All this time, Wesley made me believe I was defective. He looked at me with disappointment every single month. He sighed when I couldn't get pregnant. He suggested maybe I wasn't trying hard enough, wasn't staying positive enough, wasn't woman enough. And I believed him. I carried that shame like a weight on my chest. But I wasn't broken. I never was. My hands stopped shaking. I wiped my eyes, fixed my makeup, and folded that paper carefully before putting it back in my purse. Then I walked out of that bathroom with my head high. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I wasn't going to let Wesley Thompson rewrite history and make his failures my fault. When I walked back into the ballroom, Wesley was laughing with a group of business associates. He saw me and made a show of pointing to the broken glass still on the floor. "There you are. I was beginning to think you ran off. Can you clean up your mess, or should I get someone competent?" I walked straight to the microphone at the front of the room. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I tapped the mic, and the feedback screeched through the speakers. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at me. Wesley's face went from confused to angry in seconds. "What are you doing?" he hissed, starting toward me. "I have something to say," I said into the microphone. My voice echoed through the ballroom. "Get away from there," Wesley demanded. "Security!" But I kept talking. "My name is Nicole Harris. I used to be Nicole Thompson. I was married to Wesley for 2 years. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lauren's smile faded. "And for 2 years, he told me I was broken. He told me I couldn't have children. He called me barren. He made me feel like less than a woman because I couldn't get pregnant." "Stop talking," Wesley said, his face red. "You're embarrassing yourself." But I didn't stop. I reached into my purse and pulled out a different envelope. Not the pregnancy test. Something else. Something I'd been holding on to since the divorce. "I'm not barren, Wesley. I never was." I opened the envelope and pulled out medical records. "These are from your fertility specialist, Dr. Bernard Chen. You saw him 5 years ago, before we even got married." The room was dead silent now. "You were diagnosed with severe male factor infertility, low sperm count, poor motility. Dr. Chen told you that natural conception would be nearly impossible without medical intervention." Wesley went pale. Lauren stood up from her chair, her hand still on her stomach. "What is she talking about?" she asked. "You knew," I continued, my voice breaking but strong. "You knew the whole time that you were the reason we couldn't have a baby. But you let me take the blame. You let me go through test after test, procedure after procedure. You let me think I was the failure." I pulled out more papers. "And then, 6 months before you asked for a divorce, you had a vasectomy reversal. I found the bills, Wesley. You hid them in your office files." "She's lying!" Wesley shouted, but his voice cracked. "She's a bitter ex-wife trying to ruin my happiness." "Am I?" I looked at Lauren. "Did he tell you about the IVF? Did he tell you that your pregnancy required a little help? Or did he let you believe it was all natural, all him, all his perfect genes?" Lauren's face crumbled. She looked at Wesley with wide eyes. "Wesley?" Her voice was small. "Is this true?" Wesley opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "It's complicated," he finally said. "It's not complicated," I said. "You're a liar. You built your whole life on lies. You lied to me, you lied to her. And for what? Pride? Ego?" I looked around the room at all the shocked faces. "I came here tonight to serve champagne, to do my job and go home. But I'm tired of being silent. I'm tired of carrying shame that was never mine to carry." Helen Thompson stood up, her face white. "Wesley," she said quietly, "tell me this isn't true." But Wesley couldn't speak. He just stood there, frozen, as his entire world collapsed around him. Lauren pulled off her engagement ring and threw it at Wesley. It bounced off his chest and clattered to the floor. "You told me you were honest," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You told me your ex-wife was the problem. You made me feel sorry for you." She looked at me. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know any of this." People started pulling out their phones. Cameras flashed. I could see the headlines already. "Pharmaceutical heir exposed. Billionaire's secret shame." Wesley's business partners were whispering to each other, concerned looks on their faces. This wasn't just personal anymore. This was professional. Wesley's entire reputation was built on his family name, on trust, on integrity, and I'd just shattered it in front of everyone who mattered. Security finally arrived, but they went to Wesley, not me. He was shouting now, causing a disturbance, his composure completely gone. "You'll pay for this!" he screamed at me as they escorted him toward the exit. "You'll regret this!" But I didn't regret it. For the first time in 6 months, I felt like I could breathe. I left through the kitchen, ignoring the stares from the other catering staff. My phone started buzzing before I even made it to my car. Reporters. Friends I hadn't heard from in months. Wesley's lawyer. I turned it off and drove home in silence. The next morning, it was everywhere. Social media, news websites, even a segment on the local news. Pharmaceutical executive caught in fertility scandal. Wesley's company stock dropped. His board called an emergency meeting. Lauren gave an interview saying she'd ended the engagement and was considering her options. Helen Thompson released a statement apologizing to me publicly and saying she'd been kept in the dark about her son's deception. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. I finally turned it back on to find 63 missed calls and over 100 text messages. But the one that mattered was from Trevor. "Saw the news. Are you okay? I'm here if you need me." Sweet, honest Trevor, who didn't have billions of dollars or a family legacy, but who looked at me like I mattered. I called him back and told him everything. About the party, about Wesley, about the baby. Our baby. He cried, actual tears of joy. "We're having a baby?" he kept saying. "We're really having a baby?" And for the first time, I felt happy about it. Not scared, not ashamed, not worried, just happy. 3 weeks later, Wesley's company announced he was stepping down. The board voted to remove him after business partners expressed concerns about his integrity. His pharmaceutical empire, built on his family's name and reputation, crumbled because he couldn't admit one simple truth. 6 months after that, I was showing. A real, visible bump that I wore with pride. I'd taken a job in hospital administration, better pay and benefits than any catering gig. Trevor and I moved in together. We painted the nursery yellow, a happy, sunny yellow that made me smile every time I walked past it. I never told Wesley about the baby. He didn't deserve to know. This child would grow up with a father who was present, honest, and kind. Not a father who built his life on lies and blamed everyone else for his own shortcomings. Sometimes I think about that night at the Sterling Grand Hotel, about standing at that microphone with my heart pounding and my hands shaking. People ask me if I regret it, if I feel bad about destroying Wesley's life in front of all those people. But here's the thing, I didn't destroy Wesley's life. He did that himself. I just stopped protecting him from the consequences of his own lies. For 2 years, I carried his shame. I let him make me feel small, broken, less than. I let him rewrite our story to make himself the victim and me the villain. That night, I took my story back. I spoke my truth, and yes, it was messy and public and dramatic, but the truth doesn't always come wrapped in a neat little package. Wesley tried to make me small. He tried to reduce me to my failures, to my supposed inadequacies. He wanted me to disappear quietly, to serve champagne at his engagement party and remember my place. Instead, his lies made him smaller. His cruelty became his downfall. And me? I'm still standing. I'm still here, stronger than I've ever been. Sometimes the truth doesn't need revenge. It just needs a voice. Wesley tried to rewrite history, to make his failures my fault. But lies always catch up. And the truth? The truth will always set you free. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in my situation. And don't forget to subscribe because I share more real-life stories like this every week. Remember, your truth is your power. Never let anyone take that from you. I'll see you in the next one.